Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. All right. Yeah, let's get started. Hi, everyone. Kirk here again, or UntitledXYZ. For those who are here for the last workshop, we did a little bit of a different discussion. This time, we're going to be doing kind of a more hands-on tour. So I think, talking about the metaverse is one thing, experiencing it is a whole other thing. So I think this will be a lot of fun and a way for us to hop between different worlds, explore ourselves, and you guys will have a list of different places to visit and resources as well. So by the end of this, I'll share a long list of different links and resources for people who are curious about building in the metaverse, but also who wants to learn more about which platforms are which, sort of the differences between them. And yeah, I think this trip is generally meant to give us a good sense of the different aesthetics, the different building styles, and the kind of breadth of different architecture that exists across the virtual world. So I posted a little note. I'll be sharing links in the voice channel chat. And I have a little tour thread here. So if you share, I encourage you to share screenshots of your favorite experiences, favorite places that we visit today in the tour thread chat, if you feel so inclined. Hopefully, others will share metaverse builds that they are working on outside of the residency, or if you're in the residency working on a build that you want to share in the chat or in the tour thread, please do. I think generally it's a good way for us to learn about who else is doing what and keeping it open to see who else is working on interesting things. So I think let's get started. What I'll do is share my screen, but I'll also be constantly kind of monitoring both Twitter and the chat here. So first up, we're going to somewhere fairly familiar, just to ease into it a little bit. We're going to Somnium Space, and I'm going to click on that link. If your computer can handle it, I encourage you guys to click on these links that I share in the Explore Here part. But some computers can't, and that's totally fine. I know mine sometimes can. Sometimes it's a little wonky. Share my view here, so in case you can follow along. So this is actually one of my first builds that I did. This is the Museum of Crypto Art, MoCA, who I'm sure you guys are somewhat familiar with. And this is the kind of MoCA headquarters, MoCA headquarters in Somnium Space. And this is actually Somnium Space's web-based view. So in Somnium, you have a web app and you also have a full VR platform. So this, you can still actually hop into this build in VR via web, but there's a whole different aesthetic when you're actually in this in the full VR. But this is much more easy for us to hop into for the sake of this discussion and this visit. So what you can do is join as guest, and then here we are. So your little avatar can kind of walk around. Some of you may be more familiar with Somnium and all metaverse platforms more so than others. So we're going to do a little bit of an overview, but also a walkabout, so to speak. Um, so yeah, this is a little look at some of what is in the Genesis collection. We have some visitors here, which is awesome. And yeah, this build in particular was based off of kind of a deconstructed QR code. This is something that I wanted to take a QR code, the kind of floating nature of the black and white squares, and make something that could host art in kind of a different way. This is a project I did almost about a year and a half ago. And yeah, it's just covered with great art within the MoCA collection. Really cool stuff. And I think we can, if you see the little teleport green thing, you can use it to hop around, and you can use it to hop to places where maybe you're not supposed to be. This is a please touch the art kind of museum, there's no rules here. So you can climb the walls, You can climb different parts of the museum, and let's see if we can get up. Oh, just let them, that's okay. But yeah, I think this is a fun. With Mocha, we've hosted a lot of different like art events here. For those who don't remember, I'm the resident architect at the Museum of Crypto Art. So we host a lot of different events at our different museums and galleries. And it's just a really fun place to hear from artists directly about what they're creating, different projects they're working on. But in general, yeah, Somnium Space is a really cool environment. This web browser, if you own a plot of land like this, you can, oh, we have a few visitors here. That's awesome. And there's a little chat on the side, so you can be like, hello. Somnium is really cool because with your plot of land, you have a ton of functionality within it. You can build custom things. You can use the builder that they have on hand. This build was actually done without any custom objects, just cubes and squares that you then extrude and rotate in different directions. This was before their SDK was available, which is how you can create custom objects. So I had to use this using this just building blocks, basically, just squares. But yeah, this is a build that I have a lot of fond memories of, and I think Somnium is super cool also because while in this web version you don't have the full world around it, all of the land, you do have these little stars, so you can visit popular parcels or different places by clicking on these different stars. So that's a fun little secret. You see flickering stars in the distance, you can click on them. But yeah, you'll notice there's kind of a day to night cycle that happens in Somnium here. And yeah, it's a pretty cool place. It's pretty powerful what they've set up, and in VR, I highly recommend that. The full VR experience is pretty wild. And yeah, you've got different emotes you can do, which are pretty important in any metaverse experience. You've got to be able to express yourself. You've got to be able to dance if you need to. You've got to be able to laugh or cry at the art. You know, if it's really striking up a certain emotion for you, that's fine. It's important. And yeah, let's see. So I'm gonna swing back here, and I think we can go to the next experience, which will be in CryptoVoxels. The next build that we're gonna go to, we're gonna hop out of this one, and let's see. If you click the explore here, we're going to go to the Underground Sistine Chapel, and this is a project by 234D, Pascal Boyard, and the other Mocha. This is another museum of crypto art based in CryptoVoxels, not to be confused with the other Mocha. There's many Mochas out there, as we know. But let's click in, and then I'll share my screen. All right, here we are. I just love this build. It's one of my favorites. It's so beautiful. Let's see. Close out some of this. This is done entirely in voxels. Just keep that in mind when you're walking around. There's a great introduction of the project here. The project itself was a recreation of a physical place created by Pascal Boyard. And just really, if you go into the full scene here, the scene just does an incredible job with beautiful light baking, beautiful texture mapping, and really recreates an in real life mural that's obviously recreated from the original Sistine Chapel. But this is a really cool project by Pascal, and 234D did the architecture for this. It's really just stunning. Very cool. There's so much detail in this, and remember, this is a voxel-based world. Look at how much kind of organic material and organic kind of or materiality that's created from this. It's really pretty fantastic. So you can see all the different like texture on the floors, the walls, different details of graffiti, different details of signage. It's just like so neat. Really, really cool. There's a lot of different Easter eggs hiding in here. And this is just one of my favorite builds in CryptoVoxels as a whole, because I think it really, really shifts the way that you look at what a voxel-based build can be if you do a lot of good texture mapping. Very neat. And I love seeing floating anonymous people in here. This is perfect. But yeah, I highly recommend exploring CryptoVoxels if you haven't. These are some of the older builds that are in CV. And some of these are just, they're ahead of their time. Really stunning. Very, very cool. The Last Judgment. And I believe this is an NFT, a PFP series as well. So each of the faces on this mural are actually part of a larger collection by Pascal. But you can see the kind of mix of, or the reinterpretation of, technology in the original mural. And it's just really neat, really beautiful. A little music in the backdrop, if you can hear it. And yeah, CryptoVoxels is just a really fun, incredible playground where you do own a plot of land, and you can, by owning it, you have a lot of different functionality, a lot of different flexibility with what you can create. So, the builds can either look like this, lots of different Vox models, lots of different custom kind of creations here. The original kind of building block is a little bit more like this, where you have these kind of cubes that you can build with, a little bit like this. But yeah, you can just achieve so much creativity from these things. So I'm a big fan of this project. It's so beautiful. All right, let the tour continue. Where to next? I think next we're gonna hop inside Monaverse. Let's see. So in Mona, this is a very different type of world. It's a little bit newer than CryptoVoxels or Somnium Space, but incredibly powerful. This is a very cool build. So let's stop for a drink at the bar. This is the bar by Xcopy, Neon Glitch, and 78 Special. Let's see here. Share my screen again. All right, so this is Mona, and this is the bar. All right. This is an incredibly high fidelity, really beautiful environment. Dance moves already. But yeah, if you look around here, for those who haven't seen it, it's just loaded with references to Xcopy's body of work. Really cool. This was actually created, I think, in conjunction with Xcopy's Grifter series on async art. And this became, and will become, a really cool place to hang out for all Xcopy fanatics. But this build was created largely by, this is Neon Glitch and 78 Special. Neon Glitch is an incredible builder, really brilliant game dev, and just the amount of detail in this is insane. I think there's a security room back here that has a stunning amount of detail and subtlety. If you go back this way, you can actually see a security camera screen. Let's see if I can, yeah. So I can look out on the entrance of the actual build and see who's actually coming in. So this is a very highly functioning security room. You can see all these different scenes, the bar, the VIP access lounge, the main entrance. It's super wild. And I'm just in awe of the amount of texturing and detail that you can achieve in a metaverse space like this. And it's worth noting that Mona is entirely free to use. Anyone can create a world, and it's a big marketplace for for creating metaverse architecture and different experiences. Really, really cool. Yeah, the amount of quality that you can get with lighting and different texturing, it's really impressive. Super neat. I love this part. This is one of my favorites, the rotating TVs. It's really neat. And this is all one space. And so you can start to see the different aesthetics between these worlds and there are pros and cons, I think, to each of them. For building in Monaverse, you need to be familiar with Unity, but Mona has an incredible builder community, really amazing Discord where you can learn everything about building in Unity, and all of their resources are really free to use. So you can download Unity for free, you can build all this stuff for free, and you can create a world all your own. So I recommend it for newcomers who are learning a lot about the metaverse for the first time. I think Monaverse is a pretty amazing place to start. Do a lot. There's a lot of, I think, like, I need to switch my avatar view. Yeah, you can do first person, toggle that by clicking V, I believe. There's a lot of functionality you could build in your own little metaverse world here. It's very, very cool. But I just love this build. It's such a brilliant use of textures and kind of creating a really awesome grunge vibe. Really nice. I love it. And the lighting here is just insane. It's so good. Very cool. All right, I think we're good to up to the next one here. This is a very different look and feel for this one coming up. Let's see what we got. All right, this next world we're going to visit is in Hyperfy, and it's created by Emotional or Null. And this is called the Fediverse. Very different. Let's see. I'm gonna share my screen. All right, here we go. Here we are in the Fediverse. So this is a new project called Hyperfy, where you basically, it's not land-based, but you do own a kind of ticket into your own world that you can create and customize however you like. It is a multiplayer environment, which is pretty wild. And you can achieve a lot of, like, there are millions of polygons in this scene. And this is, so Hyperfy gives you kind of a ticket into your own world that you can create so many different things within. This is the Fediverse by Null. And Null just creates this whole world, really incredibly interesting, awesome, creative world around this purple rat that you see throughout. And Purple Rat is, living his life, navigating the world in his own way, making tree houses, which we're going to try to get up here. It's a little precarious, so you might have to fly. Let's see, how do you fly again? Oh, double tap spacebar to fly in Hyperfy. Then you can get up to the good stuff here. These different scenes. Can make it in, maybe. Oh, stuck. But there's a bunch of tree houses. There's a bunch of different scenes, a whole city here out of GLBs and lots of fun characters. I think HyperFi is one of the most underrated metaverse environments. It's new, um, but there's an incredible amount of functionality you can build into it. You can use VRM avatars, and you can create so much custom kind of scenes and places. I mean, all this is just pre-built here, and it's really cool. So there's the purple rat. These are the different characters. What's this guy? This is the what is his name? Remember this guy? I think this is the rabbit Borgor machine around here somewhere. So you can create. I mean, the aesthetics here can be hyper real to kind of hyper surreal. This is more of the surreal side, and I just love what Null has created with this because it's just such a creative approach. And if you go inside any of these buildings, there's just a ton of detail in here. Lots of narrative and lore around the world that he's building. Lots of different scenes. Let's see what's over here. You can get some food. Serving up something over here. I think this is Mr. Frog set up, potentially. Yep, here's the boss. And it's just like, you can create your own little universe with HyperFi, and it's just really beautiful. You can adjust a lot of lighting. You can do import GLBs, drag and drop. You don't need any SDK or anything. You really just can drag and drop 3D spaces or 3D objects into these worlds. It's really impressive. All right, let's see. Hidden Forces asked ticket. So for HyperFi, oh yeah, so I'm going to share, I have links for all this stuff. Actually, in a moment, I'm going to share links to each of these worlds, include their Discord, include their Twitter, all that stuff. So at the end of this, you guys will have all those resources if you want to dive deeper. And I encourage you to do so. I have notes a little bit on if they cost anything or if they're free. That'll be a useful guide, I think, as you guys dive into these further. I think it's 0.06 ETH for each world in HyperFi. And I think there's 10,000 of these spaces. It's not land-based, but it is ticket-based in the sense that you need to own one of these kind of HyperFi worlds to create all this stuff. But honestly, in terms of price, it's obviously super competitive with a virtual land-based place like Decentraland, for example. It's like, a couple ETH or a 16 meter by 16 meter plot. It's very, very different in terms of cost. Obviously, there are pros and cons to land-based metaverse worlds, these kind of ticket or voucher-based worlds, and then free worlds or non-land-based. So it's an interesting debate right now about what the metaverse is really meant to be, what is healthy, and what drives kind of creation, and what encourages builders to create. I think there's a tricky balance there, and I personally prefer. I'm leaning towards preferring non-land-based virtual worlds because I think it's free, it's more accessible to people, and I think all land-based metaverse platforms will need a kind of infinite component to this. So it's tough to figure out what the magic is. Do you know how many users? Reverse Butcher asked, "Do you know how many users are using HyperFi? Like how many users across the entire platform?" In HyperFi itself, I've been in a space with like 30 people. I think that's the most at a time I've been in, but that's pretty common across most builds. That's the capacity for multiplayer is pretty cool. Across the entire platform, I know there are about 350 plot or ticket owners. So it's still very new. They really just started, but they're implementing a ton of functionality and they have really cool stuff that they've created. Very cool. Let's see. I think we can hop to, speaking of, now we'll go back to land-based. We're going to go to Decentraland here. see what they have going on. So in DCL, we're going to visit a recent scene that was a build-a-thon, actually. So this is a ground where Pangea DAO and Parcel, which are two communities, so I'm going to share their links later as well. They hosted this amazing build-a-thon where they own a lot of land. This is Pangea DAO owns a big plot of land to Decentraland, and they wanted to host all of the builds that were part of that project. So we were going to go here and see what's going on there, and we get to see a lot of different types of architecture in one place. All right. So Decentraland can be a little meatier for people, but let's see what we got. Sorry, my voice is a little raspy today. I'm losing my voice, I think. I'm not sure what's going on. So Decentraland, for those, here we are. Okay, that actually loaded faster than it has for me in the past. So this is your character. You're in kind of a low poly scene. Very different than something like Mona, which is a little bit higher resolution. Here, the emphasis is really world-based. So you're in a giant place. Everyone owns a plot of land in this world, and everyone can customize the objects on it. This is similar to Somnium Space, similar to Crypto Voxels, but in that the aesthetics here are a little bit different, a little low poly, simple kind of trees, simple kind of things, but you can achieve a lot of cool work in it just on a simple little plot of land. So here we are. This is the build-a-thon scene. And I'll provide links to this in just a moment, actually, for Parcel and Pangea. So this is a setup where there's 1, 2, 3, 4 builds that were part of the finalists here by Decentralized, Protocol, and Memory. So let's visit Memory's build first. This is a really beautiful project. Here we are. So despite the low poly environment, you can achieve a lot with lighting and really cool reflection and color and materiality. And I just love the use of reflections in this build to really capture kind of the local environment in Decentraland. This does a great job of capturing the light, playing off of the kind of idea of a sunrise and sunset, which is this strip here really sort of follows the sun throughout the day. And it's a very beautiful project that is very super ephemeral and really clever in its use of light. And we can go upstairs a little bit here. All the way up. I just love this build. This is a really beautiful place. So at the top here, you can see this kind of rotating, light-emitting chandelier of beautiful light. And I just love this build. This is not a typical, what you would kind of assume to be a building. It's more of kind of an experience around the light cycles of day and night. And I think it's just a very, very beautiful scene. So I think you can interact with these different Mobius kind of geometries here and explore different things. It's very, very cool. Memory is a really talented builder, does incredible work. Ooh. We're going to hop out here and go to a work by Decentralize. I love this. I think this is, let's see. You can see it's kind of, there's no walls, there's no floor, there's just sort of this eggshell almost that's created to capture the light as it kind of passes by into Decentraland. And here is really a stage. So each of these was meant to provide a kind of meeting place or a stage as part of it. And there's just some really cool, beautiful scenes from this that are awesome. But I think you can hop on this, and if you click it, Go to the, aha. So then you can go to the balcony, and here you are at the upper part. So it's a really clever use of interactive elements in Decentraland, also colliders, because obviously I am on nothing right now. But there are invisible colliders that allow an object like this to actually host an avatar, so you can kind of bounce around. And that's super clever. So you can build kind of impossible places. If you're clever with how the kind of collider objects work in a build, you can really achieve a lot. And this is super cool. I love that. This is also by Decentralize, this one, but you can't, the colliders aren't baked in. So we, unfortunately, I think all the way up to the top, it's going to be a mystery. Let's see. We can try, but I think it's, well, I might be wrong. That would be cool. No, I think I'm stuck. I'm trapped. Sometimes you get trapped in walls in the metaverse. This is just what happens. Trapped in the ground. It's like quicksand. And that happens. This is a build called, I think, yeah, Aluma. Beautiful stadium project created by Protocol. Really beautiful. I love the entry on this. You can see there's this kind of like portal approach. You feel like you're entering a spaceship almost. Enter in, there's kind of like a, well, actually, this is the stage, and then behind it, yeah, this is the seating. That's right. So here you can have a seat, listen to an exhibit, a show, a performance, and take in the kind of natural scenery that is Decentraland. Really cool. And this is a brilliant job, really nice modeling. I love the stairs here. I love the kind of the scene around getting in. You kind of come in through this portal, and then all of a sudden you're here right in the middle of this awesome. So these were the winners of this build-a-thon. And for those who are builders, I encourage you to listen out for Pangea DAO and Parcel projects in the future. They have a lot of cool stuff. A lot of cool stuff. I'm gonna hop back into the chat here and see if there's any questions. Hidden Forces, could you build an entire invisible structure out of colliders? Hidden Forces, true to your name, sir, or that's exactly what you can do. So you can create an entirely invisible structure that is just collider objects. You can create a hidden forced, a building with hidden forces. And that's exactly what colliders are. There you go. There you go. And to Touch Sound Art asks, what does it mean that colliders are not baked in? So, good question. Some of these worlds, you need to create a separate geometry that is just labeled as a collider. So when you create a mesh in something like Blender, you'll actually have to label the layer as collider so that it identifies it when you load it into a world like this. So when you put it into Decentraland, it's actually two different buildings. You can have the building that's sort of the visual with texture and with materiality, and then you have the invisible building that is the collider object or the collider mesh. And so it's not necessarily, in some of these, it's not baked in. Some of them are baked in, some of them are not. What I love about Hyperfy is you can drop any GLB, any 3D file in there and just toggle on and say collider. So you don't have to create two objects, you just create one and you toggle it on and you're good to go. And I think that is hopefully the way of the future for some of this stuff, because creating two different buildings in Decentraland is kind of frustrating, if I'm going to be honest. So that's when I say if it's baked in or it's not. Some of them are able to be baked in, like in Hyperfy, you can just have one single mesh, but in Decentraland, you need two. Yuri asks, best app to build these structures is Blender, question mark. Yes. I believe the easiest, because it is free to use, because it is open source, Blender has become the de facto 3D modeling platform for the metaverse at large. And I think it's because it is free to use, because all metaverse apps have some kind of tutorial that leads back to Blender. And if you go to any of the docs or tutorials for these platforms, they all touch Blender at some point. And I think there's a lot you can achieve with Blender. I use a mix of Blender and Rhinoceros personally. Rhinoceros, I think, gives you a little bit more precision in what you can build. And I think that between the two of them, you can achieve a lot. Blender does, obviously, it can do precision-based modeling, but it's a little bit different, and I think it's a little bit of a different approach in how you want to create and what your preferences are. Yeah, Rhino. I know Forces. I think you're a Rhino fan or SolidWorks or something, right? Yeah, but Rhino is solid, but it is costly. It's not a free program. Um, Both, yes. So I know you can download a free tutorial, but you'll have to change your email every 2 weeks or something like that in order to use it, which I definitely did as a student. But then I bit the bullet and just bought the license, which eventually you just do. But it is a great program, great platform or program. Let's see here. Where are we off to next? All right, next here, and you can keep asking questions. I'll hop back and forth between the live stream and the chat. So feel free to, if you have any question about even past scenes we visited, you can do that as well. All right. I would be remiss not to visit some of our prototype rooms that I'm working on with Mocha. Let's see, we're going to hop into the verse, and this is actually using Webaverse, which, speaking of open source, speaking of kind of open worlds, I think Webaverse is really leading the charge on that front. Let's see. We're going to pull this up. I share my screen once again. And this might take a little minute to load, actually. I had issues with this earlier. Let's see. So Webaverse is an open source platform where they have developed their own engine, their own, like, this is not using Unity. This isn't using anything other than what they've created themselves. And that's pretty impressive because pretty much all other metaverse platforms that I know of use a pre-existing stack of software that helps render the world that you actually visit. And that's pretty impressive. I think that's why people are really excited about Webaverse, is because they are creating kind of an open source stack that you can really mix and match and update and contribute to, that 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 you want to be a part of. Reverse is asking, are there any metaverses that use Unreal Engine as an SDK, or is it all Unity? I think like 90% of it is Unity. There is a project by Artifacts that is super cool, and it does use, I'll just send you this because this is, Artifacts does use Unreal. Let's see. Drop that in here. Yeah, Twin Motion, super cool. Very cool. I believe Artifacts uses, for a lot of their installations, they use Unreal. So they have a standalone app that you can't really have. You can't have a multiplayer experience around it. So it's, to me, it's like the quality is really incredible. Oh, I didn't realize they stopped developing for the web. That's interesting. I think like, yeah, it looks like, so Reverse is asking, so you can make a game or an app, but not for the web. I don't know a whole lot about how it stands now. I know some projects are using Unreal for standalone web apps, but they're not multiplayer experiences. So it's a little bit limited with what you can do. You can really create a beautiful showcase for a project, but you can't necessarily create a multiplayer environment and invite a lot of people to one place. Okay, here we are. I'm going to hop quickly into the Webaverse scene. So this is your default character that you get in Webaverse. But this is what we did at the Museum of Crypto Art, is quickly kind of forked a scene. I think this is a VR chat scene. and added some of our own buildings, and we're going to be kind of adding different scenes to it over time. So basically, we're going to remodel this city over time and continue to add new functionality to it. But this is built off of an open source Webaverse scene that you can download yourself and make any updates to it. So we run our own instance of this. This is verse.museumofcryptoart.com. So cool that you can do this. And all of these are different VRM avatars. So I think I always like to choose banana because I think that's great. So I'll be the banana for this trip. I think this is the right thing to do. You can toggle F to fly. I think there are a few different emotes and things you can do too. So Webaverse is just great. It's definitely a bit of a vibe, different scene, but you can really achieve a lot and you can build a lot and do it quickly. And I think that's just super neat. I think over here we have a room design, which is a gallery that's been programmed with some art that you can explore. Go up here and look at some art. My computer is really chugging right now with some of this, but as you can see, there's a lot of crazy stuff that you can visit in a Webaverse world, and you can customize all your own. And some sounds like that. And run, and then I think you can, run really fast. Let's see. There's another room that I worked on here. So this is kind of our playground to really explore and experiment with different installing of different scenes, testing out galleries, testing out new tech. But yeah, I'm generally super excited about Webaverse because of all the functionality, all the gaming, all the different scenes that you can create here. They have a 2D, a 3D, a VR platform option coming to each of these things. So you can create a world that is 3D like this. You can create one that is 2D. You can create and program a game into this. Using AI, you can do a lot of things too, which is coming soon. And soon you'll be able to use VR as well, which is pretty wild. So it's a pretty insane thing that you can do all this stuff, but very cool. I might have to close this because my computer might shut down. If you have too many tabs open, it can cause trouble. I'm going to switch back to chat really quick. Yeah, Forces, these avatars are just fun. It's just fun. Let's see where we got to go back and try some more of these. Because we can go back to our Fediverse friend. Remember the purple rat? The purple rat from Fediverse by Emotional, who you saw earlier. Let's visit. Here's one that I like that I worked on recently. This is a kind of deconstructed column that's falling apart, surrounded by artwork. I'm a fan of this one. I think it was fun to model this. And yeah, I don't know. It's just, Webaverse is just, it's fun. You can do so much with it. You can achieve a lot with it, and you can create some really wild experiences and wild things. It's a lot of fun. And I think they also have baked-in colliders automatically too, which is great, especially for a build like this where you're like, oh man, colliders, I don't know, that's going to be a problem. But yeah, so this is Webaverse, and I think between them you have a really nice dynamic of open source projects. You have kind of closed source land-based projects. You have others that are kind of, using rendering engines or rendering platforms that are outside of their ecosystem, some that are in. It's a really interesting time where all this technology is slowly getting more and more advanced and challenging each other. We're trying to figure out, what is the best kind of balance of these things that drives innovation and keeps things open and accessible for the builders who want to ultimately use it. I think it's all super, super important. And I'll close this just for now. Victor is asking, is it 3JS based? You can create, I believe you can customize things with 3JS. Yes. I think you can do optimization for objects that are further away. I know with like Hyperfy, you can use fog and you can kind of pull in closer objects and add different definition for the worlds that you want to create. So it's a bit of a mix. I think this stuff is changing all the time too. I think fog was just introduced to Hyperfy recently, but I think you can do it in Webaverse and create and optimize objects that are further away or cut them off, I believe. Forces asks a question related to scale. We've seen Halo Infinite maps recreating the film Toy Story. Yes, that was insane. Are you aware of any environments that allow scale shift for avatars, especially as a solution to cramped early metaverse architecture like crypto voxels? So that is something that I know at Mocha we've been talking about a lot, because you absolutely need, there should be that. There should be more scale kind of play. And right now, in my opinion, I haven't seen anything that is really doing that yet. I am working on a couple different architecture projects that plays with oh yeah, VR chat definitely does. Sorry. So I always confuse like metaverse native or blockchain native metaverse platforms, and I totally tend to ignore traditional ones like VR chat, which has a ton of functionality that I'm not as familiar with VR chat and Roblox and a lot of these pre-existing platforms that probably do a lot of this because they're already a lot more mature. So I admittedly am not the best source for some of those more original platforms. I've been in VR chat, but I haven't played around with it enough. If VR chat can do that, that's something that we should emulate with in virtual worlds we're building for blockchain native projects. Because I feel like scaling yourself down, you can create a whole rabbit hole of experiences. You can play with you can just play with scale, which is just like, why not? You have infinite space. You should be able to do that. You should create games around it, have Easter eggs, have mazes, have puzzles, have different kind of like different experiences that I think would be super valuable, as opposed to these kind of flat worlds that your avatar still walks and your avatar is still kind of bound to the ground in its own way. But I think that stuff is going to constantly be challenged by platforms like VR Chat and others that are definitely ahead of the curve because they have just kind of a different, larger user base, more development around it, and more activity in general. A lot of these worlds, you have to remember, there's not a whole lot of activity by comparison to something like Minecraft or Roblox or these other worlds that have just such a massive user base by comparison. And let me share some other stuff here. So I'm going to do a big dump of links here, if that's okay with everyone. You should continue to write questions here, but I'm going to share. Let's see. These are communities and workshops that I think you should be aware of. So Neon Biddle is, and then I'll share a list of platforms in a moment too, actually. So Neon Biddle, this is a really cool collective of builders. There's weekly workshops. Some of you might already be in some of these, which I think is great. I think these are really key for people to learn about different metaverse experiences, new techniques, new strategies. Neon Biddle is a great group. We have Friday workshops. There are presentations created by people within the group. You can show off a new project. You can hop into something like HyperFi and build together. It's a really cool environment, and really like what they're doing over there. Metaverse Makers also really leads the way with thinking a lot about interoperability. Um, M3 just has some really incredible, crazy projects they're working on. There's a lot of crossover between Neon Biddle and Metaverse Makers. I highly encourage you guys to explore both. These are a little bit more of the ground up co-ops and kind of group or community led projects. And there's also things like Pangea DAO and Parcel. Pangea DAO is a metaverse investment cooperative. They host a ton of contests, bounties, a lot of really amazing material and literature around the metaverse at large and interoperability. Parcel as well is just really awesome and an incredible incredible team around Parcel, but they also host um, lots of contests, lots of different bounties and projects. And they also have a Creatorverse, which is something I wanted to show you that is kind of a LinkedIn for metaverse builders. They have their own marketplace at large where you can buy and sell digital land. But I also think their Creatorverse is just super cool. So I'm going to share that really quick in a tab. So I hope you can see this. This is the Parcel Creatorverse. So anyone can create a profile. I have a profile. You can go to it and like see some of the projects I've worked on. I can be messaged through that. I think it's a really neat way to kind of connect with people. And yeah, so there's just an awesome list of different builds and projects here that you can explore. I think I learn a lot through this just to see what other people are creating. This is, I think it's Archimisia. My pronunciation might be terrible, but this is like, her work is so cool, beautiful. It is based in Mona. So you can go to a project like this, and then you can, click on a link. I just clicked on, is there a visit? I think there is a visit. Let's see. I'm going to try to open this up so we can visit this one actually. Anyway, yeah. Oh, thanks so much for coming. Yeah, if you have to head out, this is sort of the end of the tour. I'm going to share a few links afterwards, but I really appreciate you guys coming. And this is a fun topic. Let's see. While that's loading, that might take a little bit to load. I'm going to share, before people go, a long list of other links and tutorials. Oh, sorry. Yes. Abby is asking, if I have a building with 3 rooms in Arium, can I have a different song playing in each room? I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not as familiar with audio hookups in Arium, but yeah, Boria is a pro, and Boria could probably teach a lot of what I'm doing here. But I believe Boria is the best person to ask for that. She's a boss at Arium. And I'm sorry we didn't visit any Arium spots today, but I do have that in my monster list that I'm about to drop here. So here's a long list of different worlds, their Discords, their Twitters, and their docs or their wikis. This is super useful because a lot of links are kind of hard to come by and they're a little confusing to track down, but I hope this is helpful because this will show you kind of, the different scenes. Some of them are labeled as free to use as a marketplace or a land-based metaverse scene. And so with this, you can learn a lot about different worlds that are worth exploring and worth learning. And this is just a handful. There's so many. There's so many of these. And a lot of these are, as I said before, these are blockchain-based metaverse projects, not necessarily VR chat and others, which are Absolutely worth exploring. They're incredibly high quality, and the documentation is probably better with a number of tutorials and things like that. Lots of stuff you can do. But with this, this is a list that I use and that has helped me. So I hope this helps you guys also. But yeah, I think that's really the end of the class for today. Um, and yeah, guys, this is it's always tricky when you do a tour of the metaverse. You're not sure if your computer is going to completely shut down. So it's a little bit tricky. I hope these portals and things will get better over time. But until then, we have a little bit of a choppy tour. The bus is a little rocky sometimes, but we all get there in the end. But yeah, strongly recommend going through these worlds, links, tutorials, this setup. Then also, if you really want to dive deeper into communities and workshops, strongly recommend hopping into Neon Biddle, Metaverse Makers. You will see me in those chats, and you can give me a shout in those chats as well, where I'll be pretty attentive usually. Um, and yeah, M3, there's a lot going on in M3 and they're deep. They're deep down the rabbit hole. I would recommend Neon Biddle as kind of a starter group because there are a lot of people who are totally new to the metaverse, just getting their bearings, trying to figure out how to build, what it all is. Um, and so those links are just a little, if you scroll up to the communities and workshops list, Neon Biddle is there. So I have our website for that, Discord, Twitter, and that's the best spot to be. Yeah, guys, I hope this is all useful, and I think that's all I got for now. And in the next one, it'll be the metaverse will look entirely different. I'll have to scrap this whole thing because it'll change so much in probably a few months. But obviously, like you guys are all pros too. Like so many of you, I know have an incredible amount of experience building in these worlds and testing these things out. So your best resources are usually your each other in a lot of cases. Forces is such a pro. Oria, you're such a pro. Yuri has like a wealth of knowledge and experience. Like you guys are all experts in your own ways, and just keep pushing each other to test new things and try stuff out. You guys are. I'm learning from you too. So this is a fun experience to have. Um, Yeah, I think Boria is unless there are other questions, I think maybe we could,
Wrap it up.
uh, yeah, what do you think?
I think that I was going to say the same, unless there are any other questions. It would be a good time to stop. There is one question that just showed up in the chat. Are you a full-time metaverse architect?
I am. I'm very fortunate to be. I've been in this scene for about 5 years, and for the first 3 years, I have an architecture background, um, and I left my architecture job in 2017 and to dive into the crypto scene full time. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of architecture related work. I was doing more design based projects, graphic design, 3D modeling, stuff like that. But only in the last couple years has it been, I think, even possible to really make a living off of doing builds for people and commission projects and that kind of thing. So I'm very fortunate that I have been able to make a living out of it, and I think it's important to the NFT scene. You do a mix of art and architecture. I think that's a nice way to kind of balance things, and that's what I've been able to do so far. And Touch Sound Art has a couple questions. Yes, design related questions are welcome, of course. And if you missed my last talk, which is a little bit more about like the metaverse at large and a bit about my own work, I believe there'll be a recording of that on YouTube.
Yes.
Um, awesome. Cool. What would you recommend to a starting metaverse architect? I think the best thing that you can do is join these groups like Neon Biddle. and participate in these build-a-thons that happen, every so often. So it's so tough to break into this scene because it's very convoluted and it's very confusing. But I think these build-a-thons and these contests are really a great way to get noticed, to learn a lot really quickly about how to build. But then you get noticed by people who are judges. You get noticed by other participants and other people who are just kind of like, looking at what people are building and capable of building. That will help you develop a body of work that then you can say to others, hey, I'm looking for work. I'm a metaverse architect. I want a project. From there, I recommend creating like a creatorverse profile. I think once you have a couple of these things under your belt, like a couple competitions, here's the creatorverse link. Um, I think that's a great place to set up a profile. It gives a little bit of credibility too, to create something like that and um, have a couple of different contests or projects under your belt. I think it really just go for it. Dive in and start building and sharing what you're building on Twitter, on Instagram, and you'll quickly find that people are like, "Oh, you can build. Would you be interested in working with me on a project?" That kind of thing. It sort of can happen organically, but we have to remember this is an entirely new industry. It's not as developed as something like a traditional architecture practice where you know people might come to you and like even establishing a rate or a fee, it's very confusing because there's so little precedent. It's not like a typical profession that's been established. It's really not very old. But it's a really important question, and it's something I'm trying to figure out as well to make my own practice sustainable and to make it possible. Um, Sound Art is asking, I was wondering about some architectural solutions about designing portals so that they work with the architecture and environment. Ooh, actually, with portals, I believe Mona totally had a portals contest recently. Pretty sure. Um, was it Mona? I'm trying to find this link. I'll try to find that and track it down. Portal design, it was pretty cool. I think Mona was doing some portals. They had a contest for it. Let's see. You I would keep track of Mona's. They have contests all the time. One of them was a portal contest. They have one now that ends in a couple weeks for avatars. And there's like $10,000 in prizes. So these contests are a great way to get noticed, great way to earn some extra money, potentially too if you win, and also just gain experience in a really short amount of time to learn these new things. So Monaverse, I'll try to find an example of these portals that they were creating, which are basically just links. Like you can hop into a portal and it'll link you to a different place. So it just there's some cool architecture around that and creating those environments. Um, yeah, are there any other questions? And if you have others, feel free to. There's an architecture channel just above this channel, and there you can ask anything you like, professional based or uh, resources that you're wanting to have more examples for. I'll do my best to respond to that channel as well. Um,
Fabulous.
cool.
Oh, okay. I think that everyone has access to that architecture channel. I think we made sure of that a while back. If you guys don't, please ping me on our 4C channel so that I can make sure that you have that um, access to that channel. And thanks everyone for coming. Thanks so much, Kirk, for sharing this amazing tour. It's definitely gotten bigger since the time that I was a resident, and it's exciting to see what new spaces are being created. I can't wait to delve into some of the new ones that I have just noticed, but never really um, dabbed into. So I guess with your blessing, we can all go and try our best to be better world builders. And thanks again, everyone. Thanks, Kirk. And have a lovely time, everyone.
Thanks all.
Thanks. Bye.